This is Tim Kennedy with VaderCast.com at the newly christened FailCon, or sometimes known as FratCon, that FedCon USA Year 1 has become. I'm sure that after this year, FedCon will not want to be associated in any way, shape, or form with what happened this weekend. Actually, it's not really even the full weekend. It was pretty much about 17 hours of pain and replanning and renegotiating for the hotel and for the con organizers. What you see behind me is the remnants of what has happened here this weekend. Great thing is we have the stars are still here signing autographs for their fans. They do not have to be here. They are cleared to leave. However, even though the con has been canceled halfway through, they are still here. Huge fan advocates. Stay tuned for our continued coverage. We have interviews with John Billingsley as well as some of the con coordinators. We are, as well as a couple authors. So definitely stay tuned. We're going to be covering this as much as we can. We wish it was a 3-day con to cover, but unfortunately, we get about a day and a half. So some of us saw this coming. Some of us hoped it wouldn't happen. Actually, I think all of us hoped it wouldn't happen, but unfortunately it did. So this is Tim signing off for now for VaderCast.com. Well, this is Tim Kennedy with VaderCast reporting live from the now defunct FedCon USA. We've just been to the press conference where they announced it to everybody. With me right now is John Billingsley, who is a huge advocate of conventions and of the fans. And he's been so gracious, thank you very much, John, to sit with us just for a little bit, talk about what happened, talk about why, this isn't the con experience that people expect.
Sure. I won't pretend that I know all the answers to all the questions. Obviously, Tim Brazil, who put this convention together, was in over his head. I don't think it's anybody's business to say malfeasance as versus incompetence, but clearly the people who put this show together did not have their ducks in a row. And I'm more than anything sorry that the fans who put good money on the table are going to have a hard time getting it back. I hope they do. I think it is their responsibility to fight for it, and I think it's a responsibility of the people who put this convention together to do everything they can to make sure folks do get their money back. The integrity of cons, it means a lot to me. I want to stick around and make sure I had a chance to speak to everybody, and we'll continue to speak to the folks in charge, and we'll make it as much of a personal responsibility as I can to help mediate to the extent possible. I'll leave it at that for a sec.
Well, what was probably the telltale signs? I mean, I know they posted a lot of information about money problems from day one. Was any of that communicated to the guests or to the media guests or even the attendees in a way that was appropriate for the level of trouble that they were having?
No. I would say that the warning sign, insofar as there was one, to me, came from FedCon itself. I think it's important to make clear that FedCon and Tim began by trying to partner, and FedCon at a certain point pulled out. What FedCon did not do was challenge Tim's right to use the license, i.e. to use FedCon's name. I received an email from somebody representing FedCon letting me know that that relationship had severed, and frankly suggesting that Tim might not be able to pull this off. But as an actor, I will only say that my concern was that I didn't want to anticipate problems before problems arose, and I felt that I had an obligation to the fans to show up and to play it as it laid, which I'm going to continue to do. I think FedCon acted honorably. However, I will say that perhaps FedCon should have considered whether or not allowing Tim to use the license was an appropriate decision.
After this, and you said in the press conference, which we have video of, that FedCon, if they had any druthers about it, will not make an attempt to come to the USA again.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've had nothing but good experiences working with FedCon. Dirk is, in my experience, highly competent and very honorable. I've never felt that there was any problem with any FedCon event I've attended. I think FedCon would be more than welcome. I think they would be celebrated if they got to the States. Obviously, the decision to partner with somebody proved to be a mistake, and they recognized it early enough to get out. What wasn't communicated fully to the fans was that they had gotten out, and if there's a problem, I think it was the fact that FedCon's name was used. I think their aura has been damaged somewhat, and I'm sorry about that, because I really have nothing but good things to say about them.
Very likely this will become known as Tim's FedCon, if there is a FedCon USA in the future. If he were to ever venture into the convention business again, which would be very probably ill-advised, I mean, are there any resources that he should check with? Because, I mean, there's a lot of great, huge, media-centric conventions that he could pull from.
Tim will not do another convention. I will tell you right now, he will not do another convention. And I won't say I can speak for all the actors, but he should learn from this experience. People have their skills. People have their weaknesses. This is not a strength of Tim's. The kind of organizational ability that's called for and the kind of clarity. I'm sorry I'm sounding a little testy, but a lot of people were put through the ringer. Tim has no business running these conventions and will not do so again if I have anything to do with it.
Well, thank you very much, John. This has been Tim Kennedy again with VaderCast.com. Thank you, John, very much for being so candid and so forward, and for being such a huge advocate of the fans. And I definitely hope to see you again, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Again, this is Tim Kennedy with VaderCast.com. I'm here with Lindy and Kameron, who actually have been here since, did y'all get here last night or today?
Last night.
And what's your first reaction to the convention being what it is?
Well, I think we all were just a little bit disappointed the way that they treated the celebrities. Aaron had been in contact with Brian and I trying to figure out why he didn't have a plane ticket, the day before the con, and tried to see if we could get any help in trying to do that. And they refused to return his calls, return his emails, anything like that. So him and James Callis both, they were just kind of stuck in limbo, waiting to hear anything, and they never heard anything. I don't think they still have heard anything from FedCon yet to this date. And he's been keeping us updated on the backside of what he has been hearing through the grapevine from other actors on how things are going down. So it's been pretty terrible.
Well, as you are sporting your All-Con 2008 beautiful t-shirt here, can you tell us a little bit why cons in general in DFW don't turn out like this, and maybe what there is to do at a con that goes well?
Well, All-Con, this year was our third year at All-Con. It's always wonderful. The people are friendly. They always try to make sure that they have stars who are going to be interactive with the fans. And I think that probably would have been this way here, but I'm not so sure. I think some of them might have been standoffish. But once it all kind of crumbled down, I think they realized that they needed to do something for the fans. But at All-Con, it seems like they just they know what their budget is. I think that's number one. They knew what their budget was. They knew what their demographic was. I don't think FedCon took the time I think they overshot. If you look on their webpage, it said they expected 3,000 people. I don't know any con in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, established or not established, that has ever been able to get 3,000 people on one day. I just don't think it's ever happened. So I think if anybody is out there and they're listening, All-Con, it's amazing, it's great. You can go to MySpace. They have a MySpace page. They also have allcon.org. You can go there. You can volunteer. Yes, all-con.org. Thank you very much. And it's great. It's fun. We always volunteer to help out, and that's amazing because you get the backstage access, you get prizes. So please go to their page, make plans in March to be there. It's amazing.
Well, thank you very much, Cameron and Lindy. And this is Tim signing off. We'll be doing a little more fan reactions here in just a little bit. This is Tim Kennedy with VaderCast.com, here with the beautiful Gigi Edgley. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing very good. A little bit sad about the con. What do you think about that?
What con?
Oh, zing. There you go. Exactly. Couldn't have put it better myself.
It's been, we got conned at the con. No, just kidding. We're not really. No, I mean, it's been an experience, and I think everyone's made the best of what they possibly can under the circumstances, and it's been definitely an intriguing little adventure, and I think I really respect and appreciate everyone that's hung around and, been here for each other, because if there's the heart and the soul and the passion and the commitment, and then we can pull this baby off. So.
Well, and what we haven't mentioned yet is that Gigi is here signing for the fans, not because she has to. The con is technically over, but she...
Following them home. Hey, but wait, don't you want an autograph?
But she's doing it here of her own free will, and one of the things we want to do is we want to talk about what projects you're doing right now. There's a very cool comic book out there. You want to say a little bit about Blue Shift?
Hold that thought.
Oh, holding.
Blue Shift, and this little lady is called Pepper Jones. Pepper Jones is a little lady that gets sucked into space, strangely enough, and you follow her and her adventures through the uncharted territories. This is actually co-related, this comic book series that I'm writing and co-creating with Brian Meredith with a graphic novel. And we actually start shooting small film vignettes in about 2 weeks, and we're going to put them out there to promote both the series. So that's been my baby at the moment. And then in between that, I've been working on So It Seems, which is my EP. Ta-ta-ta-ta! Is it around the right way? Yes.
There we go. It's all blue. There's a theme here.
Yeah, it's all blue.
Do we like blue?
Yeah, blue is good because blue is for healing. We need blue.
So this con needs some big blue.
Yeah, it's all about the big blue in a good way. But don't fall into the sticky patches of blue, not that kind of blue, but the really good, happy blue. Anyway, what was the question? No. So,
and you sing, I'm assuming, on the CP.
So this is the soundtrack, or the beginning of the soundtrack to the film vignettes. So that's been my little adventure at the moment. It's been really awesome to put, give something that's amazing to me back to the fans and the viewers of Farscape and the other stuff I've worked on, so the other projects I've worked on, rather than just sitting down and signing glossy headshots. I'd prefer to do something that's from my heart.
Tell me a little bit about the creation process. I mean, how do you go from one day participating in a show like Farscape and then thinking, is it like a spin-off of that, or is it more inspired by your experiences there with sci-fi? Or?
Well, I think you've got to be wise with the market that's already there, which obviously is very entrenched in the land of sci-fi.
Right.
But what rocks my soul is a little bit more left field. I don't know if you can get more left field than sci-fi. God.
You have to try really hard.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit more phantasmagorical and out there, and Nobody Knows is about a creature, a spirit that gets swept overseas but not that far away, and the adventures that they encounter. And obviously it's based on partly my little journeys since living in Los Angeles for the past 4 years, because I quite constantly find myself in the most peculiar situations, from agent meetings to nights in Mexico to mornings in Memphis to F1 races to the list goes on.
Yep.
Some stories so ridiculous and out there that even if they were true, and may possibly be true or definitely are true, people would never believe it. So no one is harmed in the process, but the night is still young.
Well, there we go. Well, tell me some websites. Where can we find this amazing work?
GigiEdgley.com has the link to my MySpace page, my resume, my bio, and all that fun stuff. And I update the MySpace page as best as I can. It's very tricky because since I went home to Australia for the writer's strike and then returned I think only a couple of months ago.
Right.
And since then I've did a signing in Mississippi, and then I had a film that I shot last year called Newcastle and Tribeca to New York, then to Los Angeles, then to Seattle to meet up with publishers and do another signing and promote Blue Shift. And then I shot a film in Louisiana called Judgment Day, all about saving the world within 24 hours.
That's a short, that 24-hour thing. You got the TV show 24. You got just everything revolving around a day.
And I thought this weekend was hard. No, it's been a real blessing. So then after that, I shot the film, and then have come back and now really working on. And then I went to Florida, back to LA, and then here. So I've literally been fluttering all over the countryside, but it's been a perfect tool to help me get my adventures up and shaking and promoting them to the amazing people around that are so supportive.
Well, I definitely hope this has not put you off of cons, especially in Dallas. We would love to see you again at an event that lasts more than 17 hours.
Run for the hills.
But thank you.
Good job. We just had to do it hard, and we had to do it fast.
Exactly. That's what we do in Texas.
That's how we roll, baby.
That's right. That's right, y'all. Well, thank you very much, Gigi. You've been wonderful.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay, Jedi Cole here. Again, we're still collecting what we can from FedCon USA. And joining me is Mark Walters, who's goodly enough to stop from his enjoying the convention and come in here and say a few words about conventions in general and what happened here.
Well, as best as I can figure it out, I think this is kind of a classic case of a lot of times when guys come in to do a first-time convention, they get a little overambitious and try to do a little too much the first time out. One thing that Ben and I have learned from doing conventions in Dallas is that the market itself in the Dallas area will only support a certain number of people, and that when you get your guest list going, once you get past a certain number of guests, all you're really doing is sucking money out of the room. I think that what these guys did in terms of mistakes was trying to do too big of a show the first time out, but also not really researching the local market to figure out, exactly what their audience was, what they were dealing with, and everything. I mean, I admire them for what they were trying to do. I think that they just made a lot of mistakes along the way, and but I can say this is a first, because in 18 years of going to conventions and hosting conventions and just being involved, I've never been to a convention that canceled itself in the middle of the show. So that is an absolute first for me.
Well, yeah, I have to admit, in all of my years, I've never seen a convention go off quite like this one. I'm aware of a few that canceled just before, literally a day or two before, or even the day of, and even one that several years ago, well, I won't mention by name, but I'm sure if you've been in the DFW area long enough, yes, actually moved hotels on the day of the show, and you had to go looking for them. And also I did a poor job of introducing here. Mark is involved, was the founder of the Dallas Comic Con.
I'm co-founder, yeah. Myself and Ben Stevens.
You see how much research I did in advance of this?
Well, I mean, basically, I was involved with the Dallas Fantasy Fair back in the day, booking guests. That was kind of how I got started in conventions. That was probably early '93, January '93, and I worked with Larry Langford. And oddly enough, that show went under in 1996 because of money mismanagement. And I was one of the last people to find out. Oddly enough, I was like second, third in command, and I was one of the last people to know. And I had no idea. It really kind of hit everybody by surprise. So there was, like a 4-year gap in there where a couple guys came in and tried to do some shows, but it just didn't really take. And then I had all these people. I would still go to San Diego Comic-Con and places like that, and people would come up to me and they would say, well, you know how to do it. Why don't you do a convention? So finally, in May of 2000, I started doing my own shows, and I just did these little comic book shows. And Ben Stevens was doing the Sci-Fi Expos, and so Ben and I got to be friends because he would come to my show and put out flyers, and I would go to his show and put out flyers, and we got along really well. And we had sort of thrown around the idea of maybe trying to do something together, and then a situation came up in 2002 where everything just sort of fell into place, and we decided to kind of pool our resources and just do one big show, and that's how the Dallas Comic Con got born.
And that's one of the points I want to bring up is that Dallas Comic Con has been pretty much the show in this area for many years as a dealer, even before A Piece of the Action was born. Catherine and I used to go and deal at a lot of Ben's shows and a lot of Mark's shows, and when they combined, and I can't say enough good about the Dallas Comic Con and Sci-Fi Expo. Visit www.sci-fiexpo.com. Check it out. We've got a show coming up in October in Plano. If you want to touch on that a little bit, we'd really appreciate it.
It's a Star Wars Fan Days 2. We had a Star Wars Fan Days last October, which was a big hit. It's actually an officially sponsored Lucasfilm event. We'll have a lot of the actors from various Star Wars films, some pretty big names, and it looks like it's going to be. Plus, we'll have some some non-Star Wars people there too. We'll have like Jewel State from Firefly and some other people. We may some of the Battlestar Galactica people that were supposed to be here may end up being there. We'll just kind of have to see how that pans out. But one thing I want to say, Cole, what you touched on before was that yes, you guys have been coming for a long time, and I think part of what makes the shows that we do work is by having reliable dealers, reliable fans, and good quality guests. And so, you're part of the reason why the Dallas Comic-Cons and the Sci-Fi Expos are as good as they are. And so as long as guys like you continue to set up and be a presence there, I think we'll continue to have really good shows.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. A lot of people, especially in this market, we feel that Texas is kind of the short end of the stick on conventions. New York, California get these big shows. A lot of people complain, how come we can't get the guests California gets? In most cases, it's because those guests are already in California. The costs of bringing them from California to Texas are pretty monumental, and that eats into the budget for the show. It eats into the number of guests, the programming, any number of other things. And one of the things we're trying to do with this episode, because of the way this show panned out, is kind of educate what does it take to get a show going. And the other thing is that if you want shows to exist in your market, if you've got somebody coming out and running a first-time show, don't let this one be the example. This is the exception, not the rule. Go to these shows, support them, be a fan, be a dealer, do what you can, get people behind it, because otherwise they just go away.
Well, the other thing I was going to say was somebody was asking me earlier about the same sort of question you asked me, which, what do you think these guys did wrong? One thing I always tell people whenever they come up to me, and because I don't profess to be like the convention guru, I don't pretend that I know everything there is to know about conventions, but I have been in this business a long time, and one thing I always tell people is I say, especially if you're doing a first-time show, I say if you want to do a convention, it's your first time, be prepared to lose money. Number one rule, be prepared to lose money, because you will lose money. Somehow you'll lose money, whether it's, a lot of money or a little money, you'll lose it. And if you're not prepared to lose money, then don't do it. And I see so many people that get into this because they think that they can make a quick buck, or they go to a convention and they don't like the way it pans out. And it's like, well, I could do it better. And then they go and they do it, and it's a disaster, But, they can't all be winners, but I think what you said exactly is the key, and that is that, if you have a convention in your area and you want to see those types of shows come back, then go to those shows and support them. You don't always have to buy like the big gold ticket package or whatever. Just buy yourself a general admission ticket, go to the show, have a good time. And here's my little piece of advice to you convention goers out there. If you want to save yourself some bucks, every show I've ever been to, with maybe the exception of some of the creation shows, you don't have to buy that gold ticket. Buy the general admission and come at the end of the day on Sunday. Most everybody's still going to be there. You can still get all your autographs, and you can save yourself a fortune on that big gold pass that everybody else buys. But just go and support the shows, because as long as you support the shows, then you can continue to have them. If we didn't have such a loyal fan base for the Sci-Fi Expos and the Dallas Comic-Cons, I mean, we couldn't keep doing it. And I think part of the reason that Ben and I have been successful with it is because we're not trying to be bigger than we are. We're not trying to be San Diego Comic-Con. We're not even trying to be, Chicago Wizard World or anything like that. We just want to have a good quality show that people can come to, have a good time, find some great deals, and meet some really cool people. And we've been very lucky. I mean, you were talking about how we're not in LA, so we don't always get the people in LA, but, we've had actors at our show that have never done another show. And so, I think every show out there has the ability to do something unique and fun. But just don't get over ambitious, because it'll get you every time.
We're good. Well, Mark, really appreciate you coming out. Just happened to run into Mark out in the halls, and he like Tim and I we're silly for going to conventions, and it's probably nice to have a break from running one and enjoy yourself for once.
Anytime I can go to a show in the DFW area that I don't have any responsibility at is a good opportunity for me.
I know the feeling. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
This is Jedi Cole signing off. Hi, Jedi Cole here, and we're here with Brian Denham. I believe are you currently penciling Iron Man? Is that correct?
I penciled the Iron Man book last year called Iron Man Hypervelocity, and it was a 6-issue miniseries, and they reprinted it into a trade paperback. a few months ago, and I'm working on the X-Files comic book right now for a while.
Ah, very good. So we got a little bit of everything. I'm going to see. I'm probably dead wrong here. I might be right. Hopefully nobody else has the same name. My name is Mud.
That's right. I did My Name is Mud back in 1994. I was getting tired of going to conventions and showing my portfolio and not getting any artwork or jobs from anybody. So I was like, well, the only way Marvel DC will understand I'm serious is if I publish it myself. And if they still don't want it, then I still got my own book going, and I'll just go with the independent route. And I published that, and 1 week after that thing came out at Dallas Comic-Con in like 1994, I got hired by Rob Liefeld at Comic-Con.
I remember that.
Because I went out to Comic-Con with $20 to my name, and he hired me. So I was like, that's all I had, because everything else went to the printing of that My Name is Mud book.
Absolutely. I remember I was actually at that Dallas Comic-Con. I met you there. We bought a copy of My Name is Mud. I actually have an autographed copy of My Name is Mud somewhere in the Vastley collection. And I remember reading very shortly thereafter. I mean, we didn't have the internet such as it is today. But within about a month or so, I remember reading about you being hired, and I thought, well, that is just great. That's what we like to see.
Oh yeah, that was it was a crazy time. But I remember after I left Extreme Studios and came back to Dallas Fort Worth, everybody's like, "You're the My Name is Mud guy," you know. So
yeah, I would suspect that outside of the DFW area, because of that, you didn't get much coverage for My Name is Mud.
No, and for some reason it didn't get distributed, and so a couple years later when I came back from Extreme Studios, my dad's garage was full of My Name is Mud copies, and he's like, you got to get this out of here. I need to put a new car in, because he's like always building old hot rods. So I went and recycled all the My Name is Mud. So if you got a copy at that show, that's one of the rare.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm glad I hung on to it all these years. And what you are working on the X-Files comic now. Who's the publisher on that?
Wildstorm Productions through DC Comics is publishing it, and it's being written by Frank Spotnitz, who was the executive producer of the TV show.
Oh, see, now that's one of the things a lot of times in the licensed books, you get a little people who don't understand the property. It's nice to see somebody writing who was there.
Yeah, and I've been reading comics my whole life, but when I was a little kid, I was really into Star Trek, and I got the old Gold Key comics, and I've always wanted to work on a licensed property, and every time I get on it, it seems to fail or something. Like I did, I got on the rights to when I worked at Extreme Studios to do the Bionic Man, because we were going to do a Bionic Man book, and
I sure remember that being announced anyway.
Yeah, so I did 4 pages of it as a preview, and it got out there, and it was called Bionics with an X, and but it never went anywhere. And then
I think it was the X that killed it.
Oh yeah, it got X'd, and then I got on Battlestar Galactica, and because Rob Liefeld got the rights to that, and that didn't last very long there. And then I got on Gears of War last year through another studio and finished that whole book, and then that didn't go anywhere. So now it's X-Files, and I'm just, thank goodness it's going through, because I always look for real high quality art on the licensed properties, and you really don't see it a lot,
Well, that is so true. A lot of the licensed books, it's just like, okay, we bought the license, we spent all this money, and we'll just get like some guy, we'll save some money on the artist.
Yeah, because one of my favorite books growing up was the Blade Runner movie adaptation or adaptation, as I was corrected earlier, adaptation by Al Williamson, who I was a big fan of as a kid, and I loved his pen and ink work. So as I got on X-Files, I'm just like, I'm coming with it. Dark, heavy shadows is appropriate for it.
Oh, it's perfect for that. Yeah. And when is that coming out? Has that been solicited already? Or
it was solicited this month, which is June, and it'll come out in the same week as Comic-Con and the X-Files movie.
Oh, well, perfect timing then. Oh, that's good to see as well.
So Comic-Con's all about me this year, really, but nobody knows it. It's all secret.
So, yeah, well, we're going to, bleep this out, and then we'll reveal it later. It'll be like one of those things where they cover the spoiler.
Oh, yeah, there you go. The truth is out there. You just got to look for it.
We just can't tell you yet. This show, we're here. Tim and I had come out to cover FedCon. We're now covering what remains. We're in.
Call it FedCon.
Very nice. See, we were kicking around some ideas earlier, and very nice. Naturally, I don't have to ask you if this puts you off to cons, because I know you've been at a lot of the local cons. We see you there a lot, and it's great to see you again here.
Yeah, I grew up in around Dallas Fort Worth area, and it was important to me growing up to be able to have access to comic creators or movie TV guys that I liked or whatever. But I know that as as a kid or even just somebody starting out, you're not going to have money to go to every single show. And I'm trying to hit all these shows because there's maybe one person out there that can only go to a show within the next 5 years to this one show, and I'll be here, if he wants to meet me or more about comics,
Are you going to be at the Comic-Con in October?
I will be there, and I think the Star Wars Fan Days thing.
Absolutely. So if you're coming to Star Wars Fan Days, come by and say hi to Brian.
I did some licensed Star Wars artwork lately, and I worked on the Star Wars Clone Wars set, so the trading cards. So
there's plenty of stuff to look for. Brian, really appreciate you joining us real quick before you head out. This is Jedi Cole signing off for VaderCast. First off, I want to say really. I did not get to attend yesterday. I had to work. We actually have real jobs as well as playing around here. And Tim came out, did a lot of the coverage yesterday, so this was my first chance to meet everybody. I want to say you just did for what I arrived. We arrived probably within minutes of the announcement of cancellation. And to see that you inherited essentially a firestorm that you had nothing to do with, essentially. And I just want to say I applaud the way you approached that. That was beautiful. I would have just wet myself to have to go and stand in front of that many people and say, I'm sorry about what happened with something I originally had nothing to do with. And you did that brilliantly.
But when I walked in, I seriously thought Thomas was going to have a heart attack. Literally, he was sweating, and I was like, okay. And like I say, I've ran restaurants and bars, and so I try to delegate. I'm like, look, you just concentrate on this. Richard, you concentrate on the ceremonies and trying to, entertain the guests. That's what we're here for. And I will go around and try to take care of everyone I can. And that's exactly what I've done, and especially with the meetings with the hotel. I've held all the meetings with the hotel. At the point I walked in, I become the negotiator for the hotel and everything. And the hotel is where the biggest part was. I mean, they, as a matter of fact, we would have killed it last night had I not negotiated with the hotel, and they negotiated with me to carry on last night so that everyone could have the early bird party, which that actually, all that kind of turned out, and everyone had a little bit of fun, and at least yesterday went through well. But the whole thing with coming in and the firestorm, it's a firestorm, but that's why my dad trusted me to come here. He knows how I am, very strong-minded, and I work hard in what I do. I've always excelled at what I do. So he wanted me down here because he knew things were going that way. And I was like, look, I'm going to cut my business off right now. I'm going to go down there and try to fix what I can and do what I can. So I flew straight down here, and that's what I did. Of course, I had to take him to the hospital twice.
Yes.
And then after I got done doing that, jump on the plane and head here and try to fix what I could or do what I could.
And in fact, you mentioned the hotel. That's another issue. A lot of people who you come to these shows, you get to have a great time, you see everything go on. A lot of people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes, what brought you here in the first place. And the first thing you need is a venue. And that is a tremendous upfront expense for these shows. A lot of people, it sort of appears out of nowhere. It's at a hotel, hooray, there it is. But there's a lot that goes into that, a lot of negotiation, oftentimes months, even a year in advance. They're already talking to these venues, trying to find out what can we get for what price, negotiating everything. There's a lot that goes into that, and to come in cold and be able to just, take on the reins of something like that alone would be a monumental task. And then to have to take on the major show, having to keep guests, dealers, fans, everybody as happy as one can possibly do in a situation like this. Again, really very impressive work. And one more thing I wanted to point out, we arrived in time for the press conference, which we'll have coverage of, or the big fan, where everyone was essentially, the announcement was made that the show was closing. And of course, the issue of refunds ran rampant through the room. And the one thing that occurred to me is no show, even the best ones, I'll go out on a limb here and say that none of them have a cancellation policy in place. I mean, everybody was immediately, what are you going to do? How do we get our money back, etc. This is new to probably every convention. Nobody opens their doors at these conventions thinking it's going to close on day 2. And I think that they did a remarkable job of covering something that was completely unexpected and unprepared for.
Yes, we're definitely not Enron, where we're embezzling and moving people's life savings around, or they're not Enron. The whole thing about, you're right, the refunds, and it's even in the policy on the website that they can cancel with no refunds and all that. But, like I say, we're going to do everything we can in our power to try to take care of everyone. As for, you're right, the behind the scenes thing, like there's 3 of us, security for the vendors. I was here till 5:30 in the morning. I've got like 3 hours of sleep because I had to the vendors were upset because there was no one for security, so I couldn't find anyone for security, so I bring my laptop down. I'm like, I'll stay here till 9 o'clock tomorrow and then run the rest of it today. I do what I can when I can, and I've tried hard. But you're right, there's a lot of behind the scenes. The hotel, I'll tell you now, it's true about the hotel. They have a lot of expenses, and I'll tell you, being that this is a pretty extravagant hotel, it's very nice. They're not going to kick people out on the streets. They are taking more losses just to help the people because they understand, and that has to do with the administrative staff here. When we made the call today, and actually I was going to make the call last night, but they actually they were going to try to work it through, and I came to them today and was like, it's just not going to work, and we have to kill it, and I want to try to get you guys out as well as possible too, because they're indebted now to this venue, and they're not used to this either. Given it's a big corporate company, tax write-off, up there, Hyatt and Paris Hilton running around spending everyone's money, but whatever. The hotel has done a lot, and like leaving the dealer room open, they didn't have to do that. They could have told us to leave. Of course, they're trying to make this as easy as possible too, but they are trying to work with us too.
Well, let me point out that that's something that's very important to bring up because a lot of times the hotels, they deal with a lot of programs. They deal with a lot of things that are brought to the hotel where people are renting various venues or entire floors and what have you. Convention's a whole different animal. A lot of hotels aren't accustomed to them. They don't really understand what's necessary. Very confusing for a lot of their staff sometimes to understand why rooms that are normally closed most of the day need to be open all the time. I've worked many shows as a dealer, as many of our listeners know. And we were doing some programming at Allcon, and we found some of our rooms, we were booked to be in a room to do a show at a certain hour, and the room was locked because the hotel didn't understand, leave the door open. Just because nobody's in there doesn't mean somebody's not going to be in there later. So I really applaud the hotel for coming to bat. That's something you don't see a lot of. So something else to bear in mind there. And again, I mean, for what you were up against, I really applaud what you're able to do. And it's unfortunate that things went the way they did, but we really appreciate it.
This is Tim Kennedy with VaderCast.com. I'm here with Charles Ballard, the son of Tim Brazil and the kind of impromptu head honcho for FedCon USA. Thank you very much for joining us, Tim. I know it's been a rough 2 days. I'm sorry, Chuck.
It's okay. We can keep rolling with
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be no different.
Yeah.
I know it's been a rough 2 days. Just kind of first reaction to what's going on. What's going through your mind right now?
Right now, I am trying. What's going through my mind is I want to try to make everyone have as good a time as possible out of this. I mean, they're going to have somewhat of a time and a little closer reaction than they would have even in a normal convention, since this has gone the way it is and John has done what he's done. But I will be running around trying to resolve problems and help people out as much as possible, because a lot of people have put a lot into this by coming here and all that. So right now I just want to try to take care of everyone as much as possible, including the hotel, the talent, the guest, and of course the fans, which are the ones who make everything work normally anyways. So.
Where does the buck stop? What happened? Maybe just give me a historical, what was the steps along the path that led us here?
Yes, actually that's a good question. and I'll carry the timeline as well as I know, because actually I'm not involved with the entire venue. I came in 2 days before this happened to try to help out and manage and organize as much as possible, and then help relieve people like Richard and Thomas, people that have worked hard at this. All intentions were good. Of course, they wanted a very successful venue. They wanted a very successful show. Tim Brazil put his life into this. These guys really have worked hard. A lot of it is probably mismanagement, disorganization, things of that nature. There was a lot of money lost in a lot of areas. As for the con, they've worked hard. They really did. Tim had full intentions. He's the accountable. He's gonna be the one accountable for everything. I mean, I'm sure everyone should know that he's not outright trying to fraudulently take everyone's cash and do all this. It's always been his dream to try to hold a very successful con that was separate of larger conventions like Creation and things like that, like the con in Indianapolis. Starbase Indy, fan base, fan ran, a lot of fun, totally different. Well, when he came in partners with Dirk and FedCon, was because FedCon is such a good convention. Now, there again, Dirk and Tim had a great relationship. I was here last year at this time with the crew, and I got to watch most of that. And there was Dirk and Tim had a great relationship and had that worked out. There's a man named Mark Singer. He's the show host for FedCon, but I guess they had issues with him. Is where the
Mark
fallout.
Bealey.
Mark Bealey. Yeah, I guess the fallout with FedCon was primarily due to that. To Mark Bealey, which really wasn't supposed to have anything to do with it. It was supposed to be Tim and Dirk. And then when Dirk dropped out, of course, they decided to proceed to keep it going, because the way it looked at that time, and if everything had panned out right, it would have all came through correctly. But at that time, they decided to proceed with the con, because they had a lot of people that wanted to do it, and they wanted to have a lot of people come to the con and have a big con here in the central United States, a good place to have it, Dallas, which doesn't have a big con, I don't think.
Well, not a media-centric con necessarily like this. I mean, there's the Dallas Comic Con run by C2 Ventures. I mean, it's very successful. It's been here for a long time. We've also, probably the two other large cons would be All Con, generally held in March. We're going into the 5th year, and FedCon, which is just hitting its 5th year this year. As far as and Wizard World, that's probably one of our, that's probably our largest commercial con that comes in. As far as that split, I mean, that kind of seems like, and I hate to be so dramatic, but the beginning of kind of where we are today. Right.
In the business.
Do you think from a business aspect, that guidance of FedCon Germany, their experience, their handling with celebs, I mean, do you think that losing that tie may have really, if that tie was still in place, do you think we'd be, sitting in the middle of probably one of the most successful cons in Dallas, or at least one that's doing a lot better?
To tell you the truth, organizationally, these guys were putting in a lot more than Dirk's crew, but Dirk was in Germany, and he's running those cons. They've done well at it for years. A lot of this is there were very few people they were kind of spread thin, the higher ups, so they had a lot on their plate all the way around. Richard has been amazing at trying to do what he can, but when I came in here, he had way too much on his plate. When I came in here, the day I flew in, I was like, okay, the first thing I got to do is try to pull things off his plate, because they're killing him back and forth. He knows everything about the con, and everyone wants answers. So I come in here, take a crash course on the plane, reading through the book to do what I need. And of course, I talk to Tim all the time about the con. So I take a crash course to try to figure out what's going on, and then jump in here and try to help everyone out as much as possible. Where they split up, I actually think if everything were managed well and we didn't have so many, there were some things that hit pretty hard that people don't even realize. The actor strike, huge, because they pulled shows into production early, and most of the actors that couldn't come were because they had to go into filming,
right.
like Thomas Dekker, and he had to go on IQ 145 and things of that nature. So that was a pullback. You don't get discounts on the airfares. I mean, there's literally probably $15,000 to $20,000 in airfare cancellations that could have been used towards, taking care of the venue, and had it been known before, it could have been prevented. It was a hard time to come into this due to the actor strike. But all in all, you're probably right. At the point that they split up, it still looked good. It actually looked really good up until about 2 weeks ago, and then it started really getting hard with the actor strike.
Yeah,
definitely was a huge thing. It started causing all sorts of problems, and from then it was kind of more disorganization. I've been working 10 to 14 hour days in my warehouse, so I didn't get to pay a lot of attention to it.
Honestly, with as hard as you guys are working, even yesterday, I could tell that the look of concern and the look of worry, and as much as you guys care about the fans' experience, can you, maybe just say a few words on what not necessarily would have been the perfect FedCon, but really, what is your goal, or what is the goal of putting on a convention like this?
Well, the primary goal was Tim's big thing was he'd been invited to all these cons, and it's so by the book, and fans want a closer connection with their guest. So Tim's thing was, let's try to do a big, nice con and make it where the fans can get a little bit more interaction and not feel like they're a number or a ticket and run them through. Of course, it got bigger, and it kind of looks like that to me now. But that was his dream, was to have a con that was like Indianapolis, where you get a closer connection, and you go down to the lobby, and the actors are hanging out with the fans, and that's unusual. That's really good. That makes fans feel special. And he just, he knows what it's like as a fan, especially when it went to saving Star Trek or trying to save Star Trek, and how you feel really important when you even get to talk to someone that you've admired so much in the work they do. And so he was trying to move in the direction, and the perfect FedCon would have been that everyone did get a close interaction. Fans on a large basis could get a close connection, like John Billingsley hanging out dancing with everyone last night. Great. That was awesome. I mean, John's a great, modest guy. I mean, connections like that make people feel really special, and he wanted to make people feel special, to really enjoy the fact that they get to meet these people and the fandom and all that. So that was the dream of FedCon USA.
If there's one thing, or maybe even a couple things, that you could say to the people that you would really want them to hear, straight from the heart of FedCon, you'd kind of be speaking for Tim in that, but if there was one thing that you or he could tell the fans right now, knowing what they're feeling, knowing people, there are people here from, this is international con. We got people here from Canada, we got people here from a long ways away, even though they're going to be getting their convention money back, over the next few months, they're still out quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
If you guys could say one thing, what would it be?
And here I am speaking on behalf of what they've ran, and I see it, sympathetically. Tim didn't mean all these guys didn't mean for this to happen, and a lot of people are hurt, and it's gonna hurt them, and it hurts me, dude. I feel bad for these people. I feel bad for everyone, and you can only apologize so much. People are gonna be mad. That's just the way it's gonna be. Tim can of course take the heat. He went for it, tried it, didn't work. Sorry. People can hate him. That's just what he's gonna deal with in life. So, and me, of course, trying to help represent him, I did what I could. And a lot of people have approached me and know that I have tried what I could, been sympathetic to, actually understanding my point of view, even as his son. And seriously, the company I run, I will be, no matter what, if there's issues with paying people back, I've got shows booked, some of the biggest shows in the country booked all year that I'll be doing, and I'll be trying to help Tim pay these people back, literally out of my pocket, just due to the fact that this was this way. As long as I can take care of my son, I'm a single father, and of course make a living. That's not that big a deal. A lot of these people, put a lot into this, so I'm going to try as much as I can to help Tim out. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that very heartfelt, and very just honest answer. You don't get that a whole lot from people in positions of power. They like to kind of hold things close to the chest, and we really appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.